It's the Go Live dance. Hi guys, we are, I hope we're live. You can tell us whether we're live or not. How are you all? Thank you for coming. So, see, random cat already. We're doing really well. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am Leanne. This is Literary Diversions, my little place where I talk about books on the internet and opinions, because we like opinions here. And this is a lovely author interview with the wonderful Ben for the Now I wrote this down because I knew I was going to get it wrong. The Scottish, yeah, there we go. The Scottish Friendly Children's Book Tour. How many times have you screwed that up?
A lot, I have to say. I did a video and I actually messed it up and knew I'd messed it up, and it was all I could think of for the entire Q&A that I was doing. And then I had to apologize to the other person and say, I'm going to redo that because I messed up the name.
I love it. At least, I mean, my wife on our wedding day introduced themselves as Jelen instead of Helen. So I almost married a stranger. So I think like screwing up a name in an interview that's okay. We're good.
Good for them.
So after this, everything was a bit buggy before, so I haven't managed to put links in. But after this event, you will be able to go down to the link section below and you will find all of Ben's socials and everything for the tour and everything else that you can watch back, because you seem to be recorded all over the place. You've been recorded everywhere. And we are going to be as spoiler-free as possible, but also there will be some common sense things that in there. You know, we can't completely get away with talking about.
We can't. I'm sorry.
So Ben, would you like to introduce yourselves?
I would. Hi, I'm Benjamin Dean, and I'm the author of Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow. Yeah, please call me Ben. If you go into a shop and look for my book, then call me Benjamin. But other than that, Benjamin's just what my mum calls me when I'm in a lot of trouble. But yeah, it really triggers me when I hear people call me Benjamin, because I forget that that's what people call me now in a professional capacity. So I hear that and I'm like, Mum? Did you
like, every part of you is like, I'm in trouble.
I was like, oh no, I'm grounded. I'm 27 and I'm grounded. But yeah, you can call me Ben.
I love it. Okay, and look, talking about other people who should be grounded. Hi, Gav.
Hi, Gavin.
Hi, guys. Thanks for showing up. So, prior to this, I did poll my peeps for some questions. I have plenty of things that I want to ask you because I'm selfish like that. But I did ask for lots of different types of questions, and we have some really random questions. So I've thrown the really random questions in at the start just to like kick us off, and then I'm going to ask like the sensible questions that I came up with, because you all are. I often think it's like, when you get your favorite author sat down, it's like, now I'm going to know everything about your life because you can't escape.
I'm at your mercy. Off you go. You're more than welcome.
Gentle, honest, I promise. Okay, so the first one was really quite a reasonable question. What are you reading right now?
Oh, right now I actually have two books over here. They're behind me.
We have props. Yes,
we do. I have The Highland Falcon Thief, which by Sam Leonard. I love Sam. I'm really good friends with Sam, and I obviously love the book itself. You know, I'm almost finished it, about 3/4 of the way through, so I'm really looking forward to finishing it. And especially, you know, book of the year. I've got to read it. I've got to make sure that I'm up to date with everything.
I love that. Up to speed. You can get like caught and see like this in a random interview, and you can be like, I know.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really behind. I feel like I'm really behind the times because it came out last year, but it's fine. I'm catching up now. And then I also have
busy.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been really busy.
1,000,001 things to do. It's fine. And then I also have Other Land by Louis Stoll, which is my next read. But it came in the post the other day, and I'm sitting down with Louis next week, I believe. So yeah, I've got everything ready next to me. So yeah, those are the things that are on my TBR at the moment.
I love, first of all, that you didn't just panic, because whenever anybody asks me what I'm reading, I'm like, which of the 12 books that I'm reading do I talk about?
I'm really bad at it's a question that I dread mostly because I feel like people expect me to be reading 12 books at once, And usually you're lucky if you're finding me to be reading one book at once, because I feel like, especially over the last maybe like 6 months, reading has really taken like a bit of a backseat accidentally, and I hate that it
Yeah.
has. But I feel so busy, and I've got 1,000,001 deadlines coming out of my ears. So I feel like books have taken a bit of a backseat when it comes to reading, but I'm hopefully getting back into it.
You've got like a real life job, and then a writing job, and then everything else that you need to do that comes with writing, because nobody tells you that when you publish. Nobody tells you that suddenly you're your own publicist and agent and 45 other things that you have to be all in the one go.
Yeah, and like especially now, you're your own set designer and producer and editor, and I've never been that person, as you can probably tell by the fact that my flat is getting dramatically darker. I have a lamp over here, which I'm probably going to end up putting on at some point, because I can see everything getting so dark. As long as you can see me, it's fine. But yeah, they don't tell you about all the other jobs that come with it, so it's a lot, but it's all fun. Being an author is fun.
I like that. It's great. I love it.
Someone's pinching me under the table right now. They're like, say you like it. They're not, I promise. I said that of my own accord. I love
it. I promise there's nobody else here. So my second question, I guess, like kind of leads into that, because you're a celebrity journalist is your day job, which I'm sure sounds much more glamorous than it actually is, as all of our jobs is like author. I write things in a very sort of like Virginia Woolf at my writing desk with my quill every day image, but it's not really that. So the question was, what was your favorite interview that you've done?
Oh yeah, no, I have. A couple of years ago, we did John Krasinski and Emily Blunt on like the same day. I think it was for A Quiet Place 1.
Yes.
And my colleague was interviewing Emily Blunt, and I was interviewing John Krasinski, and so we just kind of went together. And they came. The whole setup for an interview is like you usually go to a really fancy hotel. You set yourself up. You kind of set up a load of props and lights in a room, and it's really nice because you get to go to all these fancy hotels, and you get to like for an hour you're just kind of on your own setting up. And I always go and sit in the bath. I don't know why. I don't run the bath. I just go and sit in these fancy bathtubs for no reason whatsoever while we're setting up the lights.
My entire body could fit into this.
I was like, why would I not? So yeah, it's always a lot of fun. But yeah, that one was really fun just because I am the biggest fan of The Devil Wears Prada. So although I didn't do the Emily Blunt interview, I was obviously in the room as it was happening. And so I got to be sit in the corner and kind of fangirl a little bit. Yeah. And then I kind of audibly gasped when she mentioned The Devil Wears Prada and the fact that Stanley Tucci is her brother-in-law. And she kind of heard the gasp and she looked at me and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just a big fan of The Devil Wears Prada. And she kind of was like, oh, I bet you think we're all family. So sad. And it was really, really funny. She was really dry humored. She was really fantastic. And her husband, John, was also just as great. So that was probably my favorite day. It was so much fun.
I love that. I would also have no chill. I mean,
no chill whatsoever.
No chill. Like, there's just no way you could put me in a room. Like, I describe myself as like an introverted extrovert, and like I quite like to be in the extroverted room, but don't make me talk. Don't make me be coherent to a person I like.
Yeah, it's really it's kind of frustrating because you have to kind of, part of the job is to not completely freak out. So like you freak out 5 minutes before they come in, and then you freak out 10 seconds after they leave. But that kind of 15 minutes that you're doing the interview, you kind of have to poker face it and pretend that you're just any random person that I'm talking to.
I love that.
Rather than someone famous.
You're a person. Look at me with all my stuff together.
It's really odd because I know when they come in. So when they come into the room, it's really like the whole like presence just changes in the room. Like the whole energy changes because they usually come in with 5, 6, 7 other people, sometimes more. Like you've got hair people, makeup people, you've got stylists, you've got managers, you've got publicists, you've got agents, and it's just kind of like it gets a little bit like, oh, okay, here they come, and then they come, and they're always smaller than you think they are. So much smaller. They're all short.
You're tiny.
They're all tiny. I know I'm tall. The only person who wasn't short was John Krasinski. John Krasinski was like my height. I'm like 6'3", 6'4", and he is also really tall. So that's the only part. Everyone else, I'm like, God, you're tiny.
Do you do that thing as well where you're like,
no, I try. I'm usually sat down, or I usually stand behind the camera, so I have a reason to be standing. But I don't do any stooping. I don't do any of that.
I do this thing where, like, when I'm talking to somebody who I like, I'm like, don't fangirl. I do this thing where I do this like awkward lean in, like, hi, the whole person, I promise.
It is always, to be fair, the first 30 seconds to 2 minutes are usually pretty awkward because it's kind of, hi, how are you? And then you've got to try and explain the concept of what's happening, and you've got to mic them sometimes. Sometimes they don't like to see their own mics. So it can be really awkward when they say, you know, you can do it. And you're kind of like under someone's jumper and like clipping it onto it. It's just a lot for someone you haven't met before. But it's fine. It always turns out okay in the end.
I gotta say though, because your book has been like so much of a success, like such a success, and you've got all of these events lined up, do you ever get that like reverse buzz where you're like, oh, everybody's here for me?
A little bit. I think I mean, I don't believe my own hype, so I'm not like, I don't just kind of like sit in my house like, yeah, I'm like top of the mountain and it's all really great. I get the irony of the fact that my day job is interviewing people, and then now over the last like 4 months, it's been like tables turned, and it's quite amusing. But I think I'm usually more nervous before I do things. I actually wasn't nervous for today. I think maybe that's testament to the fact that I'm maybe getting a little more used to it rather than just feeling. But when I did Gavin's interview, that was closer. That was closer to the pub date, which was like the 4th of February, and I panicked fully for that one.
Fear had set in.
Yeah, because you like, especially when they're live, you're like, am I going to say something wrong? We can't edit this. So I'm panicking less now over them. So yeah. Trying to make sure that I'm just okay before I do these things.
But full imposter syndrome is slowly starting to go away.
No. I think, to be honest, I think if you talk to any author, they always say like, I think because you always go through a stage where when you're actually writing a draft, you're so excited for the idea to begin with, and then you start writing and it's all going really great, and then you hit what I call the 30-60 slump, which is like about 30% of the way through, you start to be like, the doubts start creeping in, the excitement's kind of gone away a little bit, the novelty of starting something new has gone, and 30% to 60% is make or break. That's when you decide like, this is not working at all, I want to delete everything, who said I could be a writer, I don't know what words are. And then you break through 60% and you get out the other side and you kind of start getting that, it's kind of like daybreaking. You're a bit like, oh, there's sunshine after this. Who knew?
Yeah, look, I have perspective suddenly.
Yeah, you kind of come out of the 60%. It can be 70%. I say 70% is where things start to kind of look up. 60% you're kind of, the land's flattening, and then 70% you're like, oh, we're not too far from the end. And then it's a bit of a sprint from there. Yeah, you're like, oh, what? We're not too far from finishing. Maybe I do know what words are. So you start sprinting from there. And then before you know it, you're at 100%. And then you throw it at your agent/editor, change your email address and your actual address so they can't give it back. And then just kind of, and then you go through the cycle all over again when you come up with a new idea. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So that, I mean, I guess that's a good question. Were you writing this? Was this the only thing that you were working on? I should point out, I have this very beautiful book sitting next to me. I have not yet held it up. How unprofessional of me. Was this the only book you were working on at the time, or did you have like lots of ideas? Because I had a lot of questions about like, how do you know it's the right idea? Like, how do you know this is the one that you should pick?
I think as writers and creatives and anyone with the, an imagination, I think, especially when things get really difficult, you start thinking of all the other ideas that are really great, and you're like, oh, I should be really working on those instead. But I would say I was kind of lucky because I had a bit of a a shortcut is the wrong word, I suppose. It makes it sound like I just kind of bypassed everybody and kind of published the book straight away. That's not how it happened. But I think the way this all came around was just because I entered a short story competition, and really the only reason I entered was because I was like, I knew I wanted to get back into writing creatively, and I hadn't done that since I'd started full-time work. And so I was kind of using this as a bit of a testing ground to be like, can I still write stories like I think I can? And then yeah, I was like, do I still want to do this? Is it kind of, can I still write words together and make them sound kind of nice? And then I didn't win the competition, but turns out that was the best thing that happened to me, because I mean, I was then kind of put in touch with my first agent, who was called Alice, and we spoke about the idea of the book, and that was kind of the bare bones for me, my dad, and the end of the rainbow. And yeah, from there, I knew that this was the one that she was really interested in. And so I just kind of had the one idea to go with, just because I knew that this was the one that could maybe get me published. So yeah, just the one.
I love that. I knew having Gavin around was going to be dangerous.
That, to be fair, very me. I have to say, I mean, especially coming into times where we're all talking like diversity and inclusivity, such like buzzwords that people throw around. Yes. I mean, there it is. Although it is lovely for people to be, allies and supportive, it's not just something that we throw around like once every 6 months or 12 months, and then we think it's all fine. So yeah, I do march into places kind of being like, I'm gay, so let's start with that.
I'm here, I'm queer, let's chat.
Yeah, I would like to tell queer stories.
Yes.
Let me do that. Unfortunately, I found agents and editors and a publisher who fully support that. So yeah, very, very lucky. Very happy.
I have a very like stereotypically gay question for you now then.
Of course.
Because when I saw this, I was like, oh, I have got 5 answers for this. Like, any queer person you ever ask is gonna have 5 questions for this. What is your favorite scream in the shower song that turns into your karaoke song when you're drunk?
Oh, I would say actually, this is recency bias, because this isn't an old or traditional song, so it probably wouldn't be my choice for karaoke song yet, because I haven't been outside in a long time. But I've been.
Has any of us been outside in a long time?
No, I've forgotten what air is. I just kind of sit indoors and kind of breathe
like
recycled
air. Like
I open a window and like, well, I'm outside, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I would say at the moment I scream at the top of my lungs, "Good for You" by Olivia Rodrigo. I'm such a...
You're like totally cringing when you say that. Like, that's an awful answer. You said like Boyzone. That is not an awful answer.
Well, although having said that, Boyzone has reminded me that, I mean, I would probably do something like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something like that, or Destiny's Child. Yeah, good band songs that you can kind of really yell at the top of your lungs. That's really my vibe.
I love that. Okay, and I again, this is another one that I had like 50 answers for. Favorite ice cream flavor, not just favorite, but ice cream flavor you do battle for.
Oh, strawberry, hands down. There's honestly not another. There is not even another ice cream flavor that I'd like leave the house for. Never mind fighting battle for.
I'm gonna need you to like move in and tell my wife that, please. When you go and you split a dessert, I'm like, but it's got strawberry on it, so this is the superior dessert, and I just get like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, but like the strawberry flavor that's like proper strawberry flavored, as in like some, the ice creams that kind of have little bits in sometimes.
Yes.
I'm not kind of a fan of those
numbers, but like something that may once have touched a fruit.
That may have once touched a fruit, exactly. That may have been like within like a few feet of an actual strawberry. That is fantastic for me. That works really great.
I love that. Okay, so almost last of the random questions, but I love this one. If you could live anywhere for a year, where would it be?
If I could live anywhere for a year?
If you could live anywhere for a year. That's really open as well. That's like, are we talking like France here, or are we talking Middle Earth? You know?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I'm being too realistic. I'm meant to be an author. I'm meant to have an imagination. I've been too realistic. In my head, the first thing I was like, Madrid. Wow. I mean, my imagination took me far. It took me 2 hours away. Fantastic.
I love it. What, it took you to a place where you were like less likely to like die in a fictional war? Because I feel like all of my favorite fantasy places, like if you do this, I'm dead. That's it. I have no chance. So, do you know, I'll take Madrid. I like Madrid. Madrid's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I say Madrid mostly because I just have a very fun memory of having 2 really great holidays in Madrid, like over consecutive years, obviously before the pandemic happened. And yeah, I really miss the vibe and energy that I had. So whether I would actually enjoy living there, I actually don't know. I just really enjoyed being there with my group of friends and having a really great time. So I would say Madrid realistically, but if I was thinking of a place, yeah, that's all I can hold on to right now because I can't do anything else.
When we could touch people.
Yeah, I mean, I've forgotten what that's like. I just live on my own, so I just like hug the walls.
That's what's happening with the vibe right now. It's just like, all by myself.
Yeah, it really is. I'm so sorry. I'm going to turn this lamp on in a moment. So in a moment, I'm going to get up and meet. Once we're at a point where it's good for me to do so, I'm going to go and put that lamp on because it wasn't like this when I first logged into the call.
It wasn't. I can attest to this. It's
you know, while you're talking now,
keep talking. Become an AirPod and a hat. That's all that was going to be left.
I'm doing it. I'm running back. I'm coming back.
So please don't injure yourself.
There we are.
No actual running. None of us have ran in like 15 months. Like, let's not.
Oh, I haven't run in 27 years. Some of us are professionals at not running. I actually just realized I did actually need to have a catastrophe because I moved the coffee table. What you can't see is that I've moved a lot of furniture around to be closer to the window so that we could have natural light. And in doing so, I've pushed my coffee table up to where my lamp is. So in my hurry to go and turn the lamp on, I nearly just shinned the coffee table and fell over it. So I'm really glad that I didn't have a broken leg for the rest of
out of the window, just vanishing.
Ben, come back.
I'm all alone. Okay. So this is an interesting one because if anybody asked me this, I'd have to lie. Last book you bought?
Oh,
like, I don't know, 27 books arrived in my house last week. What was the last one I bought?
Oh, do you know, this is really hard to answer for one reason, because as an author,
yes,
you get sent
everything.
So much
yes.
that technically bought, I'm not entirely sure. Actually, no, I do know. The last book that I bought was The Strange World Travel Agency, Edge of the Ocean by L.D. Lipinski. Yes. That was the last book that I actually bought. Like, I think I get a lot of, but I used to get a lot of books for my job, just in general. Like, I think I somehow got onto a publisher's PR list, so I used to get a lot of books from work, and now it's just transformed into, you're an author, so would you like this book? And I say yes, because I think, like, obviously you can say no if you're really busy, but I'm always like, I'm so interested in other people's stories and what other people are doing. I'm just nosy, so I like to have a look.
I love that. So that was going to be one of my questions for later, that I guess just being attacked by tiny flies. I was just in case you wondered, like, what is she doing?
What are you doing?
That was one of my questions, because I've spoken to authors in the past and they're like, no, I don't like to read in my genre because I don't want, I guess, influence from anywhere else. But I love that you do. I love that you like to read all the things.
Yeah, but having said that, I do it at the right time. As in, while I'm drafting something, I will read something that's nowhere near what I'm drafting, because I don't want it to influence it in any way. So when I was writing Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow, I think I was reading Murder, Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens, because I was like, I'm not writing a murder mystery or a detective novel, so this is safe to read. And actually, it helped to inspire the voice of Archie. So, I mean, I feel like I kind of lucked out there. So really great for me. Thanks, Robin.
So nice.
Accidental inspiration.
I love this. Everybody's with us with the running. Like, we're okay, so we've got a question here before I move on anywhere else. What are your favorite genres of books, and what genre would you like to write about in the future?
Oh, well, sorry. Literally, you know, when I've got to a point now where when I get asked a question or I read a certain question, I think about things that haven't been announced yet, and I'm like, I go to say something. Yeah, publishing works so strange because everything happens like 7 years in advance.
Yeah, exactly. On a lifetime delay.
Yeah, it really is so slow. And it's me. I tweeted about this the other week. As someone who has the biggest mouth, like in the UK, I can't keep secrets. Sorry, a slight side tangent here, but I remember when I was told about Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow was the Waterstones Children's Book of the Month in February, and I remember I had to keep that a secret because I was like, nobody can know.
No.
And I told my mum. I sneakily told my mum. I was like, Mum, you can't say anything.
Ever.
And she went and told like half of the street, and I was like, Mum, don't do that. They'll take it off me. Fortunately, it didn't get any further than that, so it's fine. Right, sorry. What's your favorite genres of books? I really love reading. I love something that's I like speculative stuff. So I do like a little bit of real world with like, but what if this was the case? Like they both like the ends, that kind of vibe, like set in a real world, but this is happening. So what would life be like then? I'd like that kind of concept because I think most of my concepts start with a what if question, which is probably the same for a lot of people. But I kind of what if myself before I start planning anything. But I also enjoy anything I do quite enjoy fantasy books, surprisingly, because it's not really my vibe for writing.
Yeah.
I don't really do fantasy.
I used to think, I guess that's kind of like, that's escapist for you. Because, you know, if you're writing one thing, you can be somewhere completely different in your head.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit of a picky fantasy reader because once I'm reading a really good fantasy book, I kind of fall straight into the story and I forget to come out of it until the very end. And that to me is like the best kind of book where you just kind of get immersed in this new world and new story and you don't come out of it until the end.
Thing that I read in while ignoring the rest of humanity.
But to be fair, I mean, for me, last year I edited Rainbow last year, like throughout the pandemic. And I ended up having to escape into my own little world because I was like, well, I can't go to Pride this year. So I guess I'm going to have to escape into Pride through Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow. But when it comes to writing, yeah, I guess I would maybe enjoy writing more speculative type stuff in the future. But I'm very, very happy with kind of middle grade contemporary stuff that naturally fits my writing tone that I like.
I love that. Okay, so that was another question that I had. So why middle grade? But you just naturally found that was a good voice for you?
Well, quite by accident, because Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow was originally like YA.
Oh, interesting.
It was, I'd never thought of writing for children before. I just naturally had kind of gravitated towards YA stuff. And it was my first agent, Alice, who said, you should really think about like aging this down. Like I think it'd be really, really great as a middle grade. And I remember turning to my colleague at the time, because I got the email when I was at work, and I remember looking at my colleague and being like, I don't know if I can write children's stories. Like, I don't think I know anything about writing children's stories, even though I really enjoy reading them. I'd forgotten how much I love reading middle grade books. I find them so clever and so funny, and I find the tone of them just fantastic. I think middle grade writers are some of the most talented authors that we have. But yeah, I mean, I kind of was I tried it. I tried the first 3 chapters. And once I wrote those first 3 chapters, I knew, oh, this is absolutely middle grade. How could I have thought it was anything else? So quite by luck, but naturally my voice and tone that I feel comfortable writing in just leans towards that kind of very chatty narrator that is like Archie, who's my main character. So it works.
I felt like, I don't know, Archie's one of those characters who he kind of like earworms his way into your head. And the whole like day and a half after it, I was hearing like Archie commentary on everything around me. And I was like, I miss you. I'm going to read this book again.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends text me after they read it and say they can hear me through Archie. So quite by accident, but I think I've accidentally snuck a little bit of my own voice into Archie. So I'll try not to do that again.
It's definitely given. Oh no, do that always. Like that really, honestly, that was one of my favorite things. I'm now fangirling, can we tell? That was one of my favorite things where I was just like, you feel I love it when you read a character who not only can you feel like there's somebody that you know, they're a real person. Suddenly they've become real for you. You can imagine what they do in every situation, but also you actually want to spend time with them, because I think those are two separate things. And
Yeah.
where is Archie gone? It's very sad.
It was difficult because, I mean, Archie didn't come to me straight away. He was probably the most difficult character to create out of them all. Once I found his voice, it came to me really by accident. But once his voice arrived, it was more plain sailing from there. But it took a good year before his voice came to me. It was a long time.
It did not feel like that reading it. It felt very, very natural. Like he'd walked in fully formed and sat down and been like, "Here is my opinion. In fact, here's a lot of my opinions."
No, that was more Seb Bell. Seb Bell really came much easier than Archie did. They were really they're his best friends in the book, and they Bell in particular kind of came to me fully formed and just fell onto the page. Seb kind of did the same thing, but Archie was not that at all. Didn't work.
So we should probably take that as this is a good chance to like tell people what the book is about, because I feel like I'm like, but let's talk about all my favorite parts. But we should probably. Would you like to do the pitch that at this point you're probably so sick of saying?
No, not at all. Never. I'm going to try and do it as spoiler free as possible, but obviously there are just some things that A, I have to tell you, otherwise it doesn't make sense, and B, I think are pretty obvious. Me and my dad and the End of the Rainbow. It's all about 12-year-old Archie Albright, who is on the front of the book, and he knows that his parents aren't getting along right now. His mum and dad have recently separated, and his dad has moved out. But what he doesn't know is that his dad has actually recently come out as gay, and the reason his parents are fighting are because they can't decide how best to tell Archie and how best to move forwards. And Archie, along with Belle and Seb, kind of his two best friends, figure out what they can do to try and make things a little bit better, which is where a grand trip and adventure to Pride kind of. They think that going to Pride is the best idea. I won't give any more away, but these are kind of things that people usually say they can guess by blurb / title. Yes. So that's kind of as spoiler free as I can do it. But
we've got a lovely Pride flag hanging around here. So
it's a lovely
really love that illustration.
I mean, my illustrator Sanjay Prabhat is a wizard. I'm so like, people always ask me like, did you think about illustrating it yourself? Which is so laughable to me because I cannot draw a stick person. Never mind illustrate a full book. But yeah, Sandra really pulled out the bag. She did absolutely fantastic illustrations. I'm just really
I have to admit, it is like it's just so eye catching.
It's
one of those. You see it on a table, you're like, that shall be mine. I don't care what it's about. It shall be mine.
Good, that's the whole idea. So yes, well done, Sandra. I mean, she also did the fantastic job of. I mean, it has this really fantastic kind of inner cover there, which is just really great. So I'm very, very, very lucky that I kind of lucked out. I didn't even have to. As soon as I saw like the rough sketch, I was like, yes. So it's very
I guess that is like your worst nightmare as an author as well. If you get handed something and you're like, what is this, please?
It was my biggest fear. But to be fair, I mean, like you should all, like everybody watching should absolutely check out Sandra on Instagram. Her handle is just Sandra Prabhat, I believe. But one look at her Instagram and you would have known that I was in safe hands. I had like slight anxiety because I was like, if she gives me something and I don't like it or I don't like click with it straight away, I don't know how I'm going to tell you how to change it because I'm not an illustrator. So don't know how I'm going to do that. But fortunately, I just didn't have to do that. She did a fantastic job. Literally, as soon as I saw the rough sketch, like I said, I knew I was in very, very safe hands. So thank you, Sandra. That's great.
Yeah, and lots of other people loving the cover as well, and lots of people just having recently picked it up. So that's great. I also love this comment. Your Pride was the best Pride.
I try to make it a Pride that I would want to go to. Like I said last year, I was pretty much writing. When would I finished the first draft in maybe the end of March. So we would have been, just entering the pandemic properly at that point. And I just was very aware when I was editing it throughout the rest of the year that Pride wasn't happening that year. And so yeah, I wanted to create a Pride that I'd want to go to, because I didn't get to go to one last year. So I like dyed my hair pink and had a little like solo Pride at home. That's about as good as I got.
love that. We will watch all of the things of our people, and we will have all of the songs of our people, and we will get drunk alone.
Yeah, that was very the vibe. I dyed my hair pink, and I just kind of
2020 vibes.
Yeah, I just kind of threw on some Pride anthems, and that was that.
I love that. A little Zoom Pride has. I mean, it's okay. We don't want to. I mean, honestly, is there any shock here from any?
I mean, there's maybe a Pride that Kevin, Archie's dad, gets to go to in a very adult book that happens in the future. Who knows? I'm sure he has a great time.
So I'm at the Pride Parade right now in the book. Like,
I was like, oh wow, where are you? I was like, get off your phone, go have fun.
Like, you know, like, also, can we come?
Like,
yeah, give us half an hour and we can come.
Honestly, I'm so stupid. For a minute, I was like, wow, what Pride Parade is happening right now? Yeah, sorry, my bad. I hope you're enjoying it.
So I guess one of my questions that like kept coming back to me when I was reading this is that I think, like, as queer people, we love the coming out story, but there are a lot of coming out stories, and I guess we as queer people, we people often think, I guess, that we come out to our parents and our friends and then it's like done, and I'm like, no girl, like I come out at the doctor's office, I come out in new workplaces, I come out to people like I meet all the time, and but despite that, this felt like a really new coming out story. I haven't read anything like this before with this take, and I really loved that. So how did you come to this version of the coming out story?
It was, as with most things with me, just completely accidental. I'm one of those people, for better or worse, that I'm just going to sit there and wait for inspiration to hit me in the face. I know people kind of go out and actively look for it, but especially if I'm stuck while drafting something, I will very much just kind of be like, right, I'm just going to keep going to sleep. And every time I go to sleep is when I think about drafting stuff, and that'll be when my idea comes to me. So I just kind of wait. For better or worse, because it doesn't work when you've got a deadline and you're like, okay, inspiration hasn't hit yet.
Yes. My entire uni experience. Shade of it all.
But for Rainbow, it was, I mean, the idea came to me just as with all my concepts, they just came to me in like a one-line thing. So I think I was on the tube at the time, and I remember thinking, married dad comes out as gay. Like that was just the top line. And when I get an idea, the one-line concept comes first, and if it is quickly followed by 2 or 3 scenes that I can see fully fleshed out in my head, I know I'm onto something. If I get just like the one concept line and nothing comes after it, then I'm like, okay, that's something that maybe I'll come back to and we'll work on later. But sometimes I know when something's straight away formed because I get the scene in my head. So I got the line, and then the scene that I got was Archie overhearing the argument, which is really early on in the book, and is when he hears that his dad's coming out as gay. And I very much thought of that straight away. And then Pride didn't come into it until a bit later, but once I realized that Pride was going to be a central element of the book, it really flew from there. But I think I went to Pride in London in 2019, and I met my friend's friend arrived with her new baby and with her boyfriend, and it was like a lovely family day out that they were having. And I remember looking at them being like, I think I was questioning, like, I find it so interesting. I don't know why it really struck me, but I was like, as a straight couple who have just literally had a baby like 3 months ago, like, you don't have to be here to show your support, and you don't have to like have showed up. But they wanted to come and, you know, see my friend and their friend, and have a really great day out. And I remember looking at them as a family and thinking about how Pride really is about family in a lot of aspects, and about chosen families as well. And I definitely started to get more and more kind of quick fire scenes in my head of like all the people that Archie would meet along the way, and the story really started to take a bit of flight from then. It took a while to get to that point, but once Pride 2019 happened, it started to really come quick and fast.
I love that Archie also kind of accidentally with his friends has his own little chosen family there to fall back on when his own family is falling apart, and he doesn't even really realize that at the time, which was just
Yeah.
like, can you give me my heart back? Like, can you not carving it out and then serving it on the plate? Can I have it back?
It just reminds me of when I was in school and maybe like struggling with my identity and like my sexuality and kind of being able to figure out who I was, and like my place in the world, I guess. And although I am as so close to my mum, me and my mum have a fantastic relationship and we're so close. There are some things that you just don't want to talk to your parents about.
Yeah.
So it just reminded me of I was in a friendship group of 3 as well when I was in school. I was best friends with 2 girls called Ellen and Sarah. Yeah, and I just remembered like my life from like 13 to 17, 18 being us 3, and if we ever had problems, we just spoke it out with each other and figured out what to do. And so that was really a kind of big decider in Archie, Belle, and Seb's kind of friendship. So I'm really glad that kind of it came across on the page, because a lot of people kind of
really
I was really worried that it wouldn't. I was like, I really hope that people kind of get that friendship between them, but hopefully it panned out okay.
Well, it definitely did for me, because I think there was that moment, I think, after the his dad coming out scene where, you know, he takes off and it feels like the world's falling down, and then the 2 people that really know you know where you are. And
Yeah.
I love that. It was a moment of like, you're never really alone when the 2 people who really know you know where you are. And I really loved that.
Yeah. I think something that actually really had to change with the book was that I really wanted the whole thing to have a happy vibe to it and to not veer off into something that was really not dark, but miserable and sad, because I think we have I'm not saying those books aren't valid, but we have a lot of those books where a queer story has to kind of veer off into sadness and devastation and tragedy. And although there is the element of Archie and his dad drifting throughout the book, I think there's always the knowledge that they're probably going to come back together at the end and everything's going to be fine. And there was originally, I think when I first started writing, there was originally like through lines of homophobia, and like I was thinking of how people around Archie might react, especially at school. And then I realized I was writing a story that I wasn't interested in myself. I didn't want to read that book, and B, I was just like, it doesn't make me happy, so I want to make something that's just a bit of joy. So I'm really glad that I took that out really early, because it just wasn't part of the book.
Yeah, and I think also with a lot of queer stories, there's this feeling like you have to earn your happy ending, and I love that wasn't here. It was like, no, you deserve your happy ending. Like, that's different, and that really came through. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about actually was, I really loved that you weren't kind of afraid to let his parents be messy, because they're going through so much with each other. But often I think in middle grade, you either get the absent parents or you get the perfect parents, like the really perfect vision of parents. And I was like, no, these are people that I know though. Like, especially there's it's not really a spoiler, it's very early on in the book, but there's a parents' evening that kind of goes pear-shaped. And I was like, no, but I know these people. And it was so nice. It was so nice to see characters being a little bit messy, but also, I guess, again, there's a difference between they were messy, but they were messy because everybody loved each other, and I loved that. How was that, writing that?
Really emotional. It was a real emotional ride, I can't lie. Like I said, I wanted the whole thing to be happy and something that would make me excited to read it. So originally, part of the reason that the parents are so messy is because it made me laugh. It was Meg in particular. Meg is Archie's mum, and her character made me like hysterically laugh whenever she would come onto the page, because she's, especially at the very beginning, she's so dramatic and everything is like just amped up to 1,000 with Meg. But I then had this thing of this realization that she's involved in this as well, and she is heartbroken, and she's, you know, her marriage is just kind of disintegrated, and she wants the best for Archie's dad Kevin, and she wants the best for Archie, but she's still hurting this alone, and she's on her own journey. And although Meg doesn't get the most page time, because that's not I'm writing for a middle grade audience, so I can't have a book that's 120,000 words long, and I can't tell everybody's story. There is absolutely a story in Meg that I hope maybe it's probably easier found with adult readers, but I really hope that there is some aspects of Meg when she appears on the page that people can read between the lines and see what she's going through, because I think she has her own journey, and it really does happen mostly off page, because for the good like second half of the book she's not there, and she appears again at the end. But she's absolutely going through her own journey, and I really found that really emotional. I was really devastated actually for her. It reminded me of she's named after Meg from Hercules. I name a lot of my characters after
I love that.
I name a lot of my characters after books and movies that I really like, or I loved growing up and inspired me in some way.
That's the best detail ever.
And Meg's story in Hercules I find so heartbreaking. She like saves her lover from like death and sells her own soul to Hades, and then he leaves her and just goes with someone else, and she's left heartbroken. And so, although obviously that's not entirely inspired to Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow, I mean, Archie's dad has a lot going on. He has a lot to think about. Meg has a lot to go on and think about. So it was as realistic as I could make it, because they're not going to be perfect parents, because they're all thinking about their own things and everything.
But I love that, though. I love that Archie gets this idea, and then obviously your readers also get this idea that parents have emotions, and parents are allowed to not be perfect all the time, because I think that is one of my big issues, I guess, with middle grade parents when they are on the pages. Quite a lot of the time they show this kind of really pristine side where they always give the best advice, and they're always 100% a whole person, and you're like, that's not entirely what your readers are actually going to find in their own parents. Like, we have really crappy emotions sometimes, and you can't always put them in a box for your kids with the best will in the world. But I love that, though. I love that they kind of they so clearly loved each other despite everything that had happened as well. And it was a really nice way to show a fractured family, is like, we're still a family, even though bad things have happened, we still love it. And I'm just gushing at this point. I'm just like,
I love it.
I loved all of this. But I love the fact that you presented a thing to kids where it's like, okay, a bad thing happened, but not necessarily for bad reasons, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a bad outcome. Like, your world changed, but that doesn't mean change is always bad. And I love that. It's like a very now message for kids dealing with queer things in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, parents aren't perfect, and I think we realize that when we get older. And so maybe it definitely wasn't something that I did on purpose while I was writing the book. I was just writing realistically what I thought my characters were going through. And for Meg and Kevin, that's heartbreak and discovery and exploration and a lot of other things. But I'm really glad, hopefully, that, kids will realize their parents are real people as well, with real emotions, and they're not kind of like these beacons of perfection that we all think they were when we were kids.
It's that thing as well where you like see a teacher outside of the school, and it's like, excuse me, you live in the school, why are you here? Like, no.
You wear things that aren't a three-piece suit? What?
Exactly. What do you mean his name's not always Dad? Like, I don't understand this concept. One of the things that kept coming back to me when I was reading this, though, was it felt very, bear with me here, it felt very like Pixar, in the way that how do I describe this? Your humor works on so many different levels. There's a lot of like really sophisticated humor in there, and I feel like it's kind of like when you sit down and you watch Toy Story as a kid, and then you watch Toy Story as an adult, and you're like, oh, there was some stuff in there I did not see. Yeah.
I think that was probably, especially in one instance that I can think of the top of my head. But I mean, there are definitely a few instances where I sprinkled that in, and things like Pixar and Disney were kind of a big inspiration behind that, because I'm writing for kids. Like I absolutely know who my audience are and who my demographic are, and I know who this story is for. But I'm also aware that plenty of adults read these books, some reading them before they give them to their kids to check that they're okay and whatever, and some just reading them because they enjoy them. And I find the funniest / most incredible books that I read have this kind of nod or wink at an adult being like, you know what I'm talking about. And I it made it fun for me as well while I was writing. I mean, I absolutely love writing for kids, but one of the best things I love about Disney movies is going back and watching them as an adult and being like, oh my God, I did not see that.
Oh
yeah. And even I mean, that literally relates to even things that aren't just humorous. Like there is a scene in the book. I won't give too much detail because I don't want to give too much away, but there's a scene in the book where I think as adults we can see that some kind of homophobia has happened off page, or things haven't quite gone the way that Kevin had wanted them to. And it's not explicitly said because like I said, I wanted to keep the book positive and I wanted to kind of not go down that route. But realistically, I was thinking like, yeah, there are some people that don't take it very well. That's just part of life. And so I was like, I will give that nod to people who might be a little bit older and are like, oh, okay, I see. Because Kevin's going through a lot. He's going through his own emotional discovery and whatever. So I wanted adults to be able to feel realistically what's happening, but I wanted kids to be able to read it and have a great time and learn something from the book. So
well, what are some of the reactions that you've had from, because your book's been out there for long enough now that you've got kid reactions and adult reactions, and then you've got us people who read semi-professionally. Am I a professional? Who knows?
You are. Absolutely.
But what are some of the reactions that you've got from the book?
I think one of the things that I've found really it blows my mind is that I've been talking to, especially over the last week, I did the Scottish Friendly Book Tour, and I got to go virtually meet a whole load of kids over the week and talk about the book. And it's so wild to me that we're at a point now where things are, kids in schools are talking about the LGBTQ plus community and Pride, and I'm visiting schools who are putting up Pride decorations for Pride Month, and I'm like, it made me so emotional last week when I was doing this tour, because I was like, when I was in school, this wasn't anything that was even remotely possible. The only way gay was ever said in school was if something was quote unquote bad, and you were like, that's so gay or something. And I just seeing all of these kids asking me such insightful questions about the books they'd really enjoyed sitting down and going on this adventure, really, really tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. And they were they were kind of drawing their own prides, and they were drawing me into them as a character in my book, and they were kind of writing like "love is love" on posters, and I was like, I could cry. It was so much fun.
So much hope in such tiny people.
I was just like, I can't believe and talking is how things get to a point where it's not taboo to talk about, and people realize that they're not aliens with 3 heads and 7 arms. It's when I was a kid, I kind of felt a bit like, oh no, I feel like I've got a crush on boys, and that feels like that's not something I should have. And now it feels like kids can kind of find themselves in other places and realize that they're not alone, and it's not weird and not odd. And regardless of what anybody else has to say, that is the reality of that. Some people realize much earlier than others. If I'd have had a book like mine, or the plenty of other authors that I've read when I was in school, I probably would have realized way before 16 that I was gay. It would have helped.
Yes, so, I mean, my experience was very much that I realized, I don't have a moment of realization, because I think I had to be taught that it wasn't normal, and I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to like that person. Oh,
got you.
Well, that's awkward, because I do. So I think this is more than anything, every time I come back to this because it's one of those books I think that like because Archie earworms and I constantly am like I want to read the book again. I've thought about this like constantly since, and I'm just like I want to just buy 100 copies of this, and every like potentially queer person in my life I want to be like, and you get a book, and you get a book. Because it is the story that a lot of us needed. So I guess that was one of the questions that came in, and I thought that was interesting. Like, what was your school experience like?
Much better, and I was so lucky, but much better than I would guess a lot of other queer people's experience was in school. I kind of I was really, really fortunate in the sense that we, in the city that I am from, just as I was going into year 6, we moved to a brand new neighborhood which had been literally built from like the ground up, and it was like a brand new, it's a really weird, my friends would kind of call it a bit of a cult, I suppose. It wasn't, but it was kind of billed as being one of those places that you could kind of live in and you wouldn't have to leave. It had like a big supermarket, it had a mini shopping center, it had schools, it had 2 primary schools and a secondary school. But the primary school that I went to was brand new. So when I went to it in year 6, it had just opened. So I was the first year 6. And then when I went to secondary school, they only had year 7 and year 8. And I went into year 7 and they opened it on the day that I went. So everyone was new to the school.
It's just for you.
It was just for us. I mean, there was
just for you.
It was like 2005, and it was kind of like there would have only been 200 kids in the school altogether, in a school that now has way over 1,500 people. But yeah, there was only 200 kids in the school. So I always knew everybody in my year and everybody in the year above. And so it wasn't ever that thing where you would go into school now in year 7 and you'd have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 above you, and you'd feel really nervous. I kind of got a really good experience where there wasn't many of us. We were all pretty close. We all had our own little friendship groups, and I therefore didn't have to experience really any kind of bullying or negativity over that. The one thing that was just funny to me was that when people called me gay for years, and when I came out as gay, everyone was like, oh, really? I was like, you've okay.
Oh.
I was like, you've spent years calling me gay, and now I've finally come out as gay. You're like, wait, really? We were joking. But I was very, very lucky. Like I said, I had a really fortunate childhood. I'm very, very, very aware of. It could have been so much different. Even if I had have gone to the school that I was meant to go to, which was only 3 miles down the road, my experience would have been completely different. And I'm very, very aware of that. And I feel very, very fortunate and very, very privileged that I was able to kind of have that experience growing up, because I know not all of us get that. So
yes. I love this plot twist. What do you mean you're gay?
I mean, it was I would have to say I was probably one of the kids where it was very, very obvious. But I mean, you called me gay for like 2 years, and then I come out in like year 9 and everyone's like, really?
Yes.
I was like, okay, sure.
I was like, are you really shocked? Are you really shocked? No. So before I forget, we ran a competition on Instagram so that some lucky person could win a copy of your book. And Chris Tenreads won your book, and so is very happy. That will be flying its way very soon. But they wanted to ask, what was your first experience of Pride?
Birmingham Pride 2012. I will never forget it, mostly because where I'm from is a pretty small city, and although I knew that I was gay from relatively early, I guess, and I came out and I was really comfortable with all my friends and everything, I didn't have any gay friends or a gay community or anything to kind of lean back on. So it was like, oh, I've come out, now what? And so I was 18, I turned 18 in the November, and then in the May, I think it was, Birmingham Pride was happening. And me and one of my friends, who I kind of made friends with this person online, and we were really good friends online, etc. And he was like, I'm going to go to Birmingham Pride, and I don't have anyone to go with, like, shall we go together? And so we went together, and oh my God, like the best time. Mostly just because it was the first time that I remember rounding the corner to get into Pride and seeing like thousands of people, and in some weird way thinking like, these are kind of like a family for me.
Yeah, these are my people. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the first time that
Yeah.
I could look at people and be like, oh, you're all in some way, one way or another, like me, whether we look the same or are the same or whatever, we have this common connection that we're here for a reason. And it's definitely something that I put into book 2, which is due to come out in January. Definitely something that I put into that, about the concept of going to a Pride for the first time and thinking I found another home that I didn't know I needed until now. I had so much fun just because for the first time I felt I'd had months, sorry, of going out with my friends to straight bars, and I was sick of it. I'm so sorry to anybody who frequents and loves straight bars, but
Oh,
personally, I was so tired. I think because I say that because always had that kind of worry that I would get in some kind of trouble, or I'd find myself
yeah.
in a situation I didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
I'm not a fighter at all, not my
Yeah,
vibe. I hate any kind of
it's a very different kind of a vaguely unwelcoming vibe in a lot of
yeah. You
areas.
just kind of I found myself making myself a little bit smaller and making
Yeah.
myself trying to fade into the background. And the problem was problem and not I guess it's not a problem per se, but I was friends with who were seen as like the pretty girls at school,
Yeah.
and that unfortunately, no matter how much I tried to make myself invisible on a night out, we're going to draw attention just for the fact because
Yeah.
you're all beautiful women and everybody thinks that you're fit or whatever, and they want to get your number. And I just kind of being friends with them was great growing up, but when we got to points where we could go out, it felt like men would look at me because they thought I was with one of them, and it was really made me uncomfortable. So going to Pride was like, for the first time I felt like my shoulders like weren't up here. I wasn't like tense all night. I relaxed completely and I had so much fun. It was the best time. I will
I
never
feel
forget the time.
every queer person I know has that box that you put things in, and you
Mm-hmm.
carry it about with you, and you put in how you really feel, and you put in what you really want to say, and
Yeah.
you fold things away and tuck them into the box for later. And I often feel like Pride and potentially even just walking into a gay bar, you have that moment where you're like, oh, I don't have to carry this anymore. I can just
Mm-hmm.
have it. And
Yeah.
it definitely is like a breath thing, like I
Yeah.
love the sort of wonder that Archie had at all of these people just being who they are. And it's
Yeah.
like there's so much to see. Like,
Yeah, very me. I mean, that experience was just me all over. Like when I got to Birmingham, I remember looking around me and being like, "Oh my God, this is insane." I was looking around me like there's all these different kinds of people who I've never seen before. And oh, it was such a great experience. I had such a fantastic time. I have such fond memories of Birmingham because of that. I've never been since, but to me, Birmingham will always have a special place in my heart just because it
I
was a
love
fantastic time.
that. It was my first this thing, so I
Yeah,
like.
maybe that's why I love it so much because I never went back. I don't know. I really I went to Manchester for uni after that, so I didn't really need to kind of travel to a place to go to a gay bar because
Yeah.
Manchester had plenty of them. So
Yes.
they had a whole street of them.
Yes. So another question that we got on Instagram that I think was nice was like, how has your experience of Pride changed from the first time you went to your most recent visits to Pride, like pre the pepperoni?
Pre the pandemic, I would say just it feels, although I felt more relaxed when I went to Pride the first time than I did in other spaces that I'd been out to beforehand. Um, I still think there was a little wonder and innocence in me that kind of I don't necessarily have anymore because I'm not 18 and I've seen more of the world and I've met more people, etc., etc. So I just think that my experience just differs now, just because when I go to Pride, I kind of know what I'm expecting, I know what I'm going to see, and it's not this kind of like blind wonder where you're like, oh my god, which is
Everything
all
is
I
so
did.
shiny.
Yeah, that's all I did for the entire day, being like, oh my God, oh my God, this is great. And I still have this sense of happiness now. I actually also think that I think about Pride more now. for want of a better word, a bit more politically. I think obviously when I went to Pride in 2012 as an 18-year-old, I wasn't really thinking about what Pride really stands for and what Pride is actually there for. And I think as I've gotten older, I enjoy Pride for the chance to be surrounded by the people that I love, my chosen families, and to feel like I can celebrate me, my identity, my friends' identities like together. But I also have that sense of urgency that there are plenty of members of the LGBTQ plus community who don't share similar equal rights that we all deserve, and the reason why we have Pride in the first place. So I think I go to Pride now with a little bit of a different perspective than I would have when I was 18, 19, 20. I'm 27 now, so I feel a little bit different.
I think there's definitely, I like that you outed your age there. That was good. I'll just slip that in and quickly move on. I think though that, I don't know if this is sunk in for you yet, but when you do get past that kind of like 21 thing, and you it's weird, it's almost like you become an elder in that community, for a community that like generations past lost a lot of people who had that function. And like, this book is going to be one of those gateway things for kids, for they're like, this is the first queer book that I read, and now you kind of, it's weird where you kind of have that responsibility of being there for other people. And when you go to Pride and things like that, suddenly you're the person that people look for. Like, has that sunk in at all, that there's going to be kids in like maybe 10 years who are like, no, but this is how I knew I was gay, and this is why I'm here?
A little bit. It only really sunk in last week. I was on a school visit, and I always leave like 10-15 minutes at the end for questions, etc. And one of the kids put up their hands and asked, what advice do you have for someone who might be struggling to come out? And it made my heart like break into like a million pieces. And it reminded me that it's something that I know is I understand that this book is, and I want it to be, an important thing for people who need it, because this is a book that I would give to me as a 9, 10, 11-year-old that I wish I had. Yeah. And it feels a little bit like giving my younger self a little something to be like, you know what, I know you maybe had it a little bit rough growing up, not knowing who you were and feeling like you were alone, but this is for you. And there are plenty of kids who feel like that and don't have to necessarily feel like that so much anymore, because there's so much more representation out there. But it really hit me like a truck. I got off that call and I think I cried. I was fully like, yeah. I was so wrapped up in doing, promo for the book and writing another book and all of this stuff, that I hadn't really stopped to take stock of the fact that to some people, hopefully this will be really important for them and really pivotal for them. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I get messages from people who, I think when the book first came out, I had a parent message me and say they were in a same-sex relationship, and they were same-sex parents, and they wish they'd had this book when they were in school, especially they brought up Section 28, etc. Yeah. And I remember reading this email and I just cried, because I was like, I didn't really think that this, you always think you're kind of shouting into kind of a void and nothing's happening.
Yeah. Especially in publishing, where everything's like behind you.
Yeah. Because I've already dealt with the emotions that I have when I write the book, and then you kind of relive them a little bit when you did a promo again. Yeah. But it is a part of the reason why I'm selective is the wrong word. I'm wary of reading too much feedback on the book, good or bad. To begin with, I always knew I wanted to shield myself from unnecessarily bad reviews or comments about the book, which fortunately I haven't seen, which is fine. But it was those kind of emails at the beginning that I realized was so emotionally overwhelming for me. And I love getting them. That's not to say that I don't want to see them, because I absolutely love seeing them. But it made me just take stock for a minute and just kind of remind myself to kind of not, I never was really much into searching out those kind of good reviews, because I was always scared I'd stumble across something I didn't want to see. But I just think I spent so long head down in the draft that I didn't really think about it having an impact on people. So to kind of have that now is really, really great.
As queer people, we are kind of building our own canon of literature that we weren't allowed to have before. And you've done a very special thing, because I think this is going to be one of those like building block books where when in 5-10 years, when you look back and you're like, at the canon that's now emerging in middle grade and like YA especially, that's like groundbreaking books. Like I think you've done a special thing, and I don't think it is quite sunk in yet, but I think it is evident in the fact that people do write you those emails and things like that, because they're like handing you tiny little pieces of themselves, and that's a lot to take on. Like that's an emotional thing.
Yeah, I just didn't think I'm a really like realistically pessimistic person, where I kind of like almost have the audacity to hope for the best, but I realistically think like, oh, this is probably going to reach like 4 people. I was like, oh, like I will sell like 4 copies of the book. And then like I went on, I have a thing where every couple of weeks or so I will kind of check in on Goodreads. I don't read reviews. I know that's not an author's platform. I don't read reviews. I kind of go on and see like, I kind of go on and be like, oh, like I wonder how many ratings it's got now, or because it kind of gives me a good gauge of like the reach that you're getting, and it reminds me of like other people reading the book. And I logged onto Goodreads earlier, and it has over 500 ratings now, and I was kind of just baffled by it. I was like, oh wow! I think the last time I checked, it had like 200, and this is just insane. But yeah, I mean, I'm just really happy that we have this space now to kind of, for me and the countless other queer authors that are coming through / are already were already leading the way before I came along. I just love that we're all kind of doing our thing and being able to put books out there that other kids can read.
We're doing our thing out loud, which I think
exactly
is something Archie learns. Like you can do your thing out loud and it's fine. Like the world is still fine. Okay, so I have some final questions to kind of like wrap us up, since we went to the serious place, but we're bringing it back to the fun.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I have such a habit of dragging things into serious things. I'm so sorry. I'm usually so much more funny. I'm sorry. No,
but I think that don't ever apologize for having that conversation, because I think it's our time to be able to talk about our history and where you're going to be in our history soon. So like I think that was a good thing. But yes. In saying that, I do have some like very, very pressing questions to ask you when we finish up. Sure. And of course, if anybody in the comments would like to ask any last questions, now is the time. While I ask you, what is your favorite Disney villain?
Disney. Oh, I thought you were going to say Disney film. So straight away, I was
that is fun too. We can have that too. But Madam Mim lives on my bookcase behind me, so I feel like I have affinity with villains.
I think villains are better characters than heroes, to be honest. I think they have much more about them, to be quite honest. Yes. Disney villains are always so campy. I love it. I really love Hades as a villain, but I would say probably my favorite is maybe Cruella or Maleficent.
I love it.
I feel like
they are. We've gone for really high tag. I like that.
I feel like I just love the not glamour, that's the wrong word, but I feel like they just have this real dark vibe to them, and they're very like unapologetically cruel and mean and horrible, which don't like in real life. Don't like people to be unapologetically cruel in real life, of course. But in movies, I want to see that. Yes, I love it.
I also know that you've gone for like Maleficent and Cruella, who are two of the people who are like, I am badass enough that I don't need to sing my own theme song. Thank you very much. I just exist.
Although I do love Ursula. Obviously, you know, it has a lovely little sing-song in The Little Mermaid. I do love Ursula as well.
Yes, and inspired by Divine. We love that.
Yes,
Inspired by
truly.
real drag queens. Okay, so we do have a question before I go on with more of my ridiculous ones, because I do have a
Mhm.
few. Did you enjoy reading as a child, and what were some of your favorite reads? Are there any books that you've absolutely hated? Oh, that's spelling for the end. That was immediately thrown at the end, Helen.
Hi, Helen. I loved reading as a kid. That's as soon as I was a reader, like I could not stop reading. You would never find me without a book in my hand as a kid. I
am
loved.
so shocked. I'm so shooketh by that revelation.
Yeah, an author that loved reading as a kid. Oh,
no, but I think especially you. Like, I don't know. There's something I've watched. So like a couple of interviews with you, fangirl moment. Watched a couple of interviews with you, and you give off strong "I read everything" vibes, and I love that. Like, it makes me very happy.
Yeah, no, definitely as a kid, I always used to steal my mum's crime books when I was way too young to be reading them. My mum's like a very, I'm sorry, mum, you're not going to watch this, so it's fine. But she's like a very trash crime type reader. Yeah. And also she's like, I mean, there are other people she loves as well. So I was kind of stealing like her James Patterson's and like that big, like very commercial crime type book.
The detective does gritty
things. She loves those kind of books. And I was reading those when I really shouldn't have been, which is where Belle gets her love of crime books from. Belle has a love for adult books, and that came from me. As a kid, I really, really loved the two books I always mention are Noughts and Crosses, because it was the book that made me realize I could be an author. Mallory Blackman, I stan, and whenever I'm in any proximity to her, not in real life because we're in a pandemic, but whenever I'm in like any proximity to her online, I'm always like, oh, it's Mallory Blackman. Just because it was literally the one time I remember it was my grandma made me read Noughts and Crosses out loud to her while she was cooking. And it was like our way of kind of making sure that, you know, I was reading and doing whatever. And yeah, it just made me realize I could be an author. But the Alex Rider series by Anthony Horowitz, I was obsessed with the Alex Rider series when I was a kid. And I've started, although Mallory Blackman was the one who made me realize I could be an author, Alex Rider series was the one that I kind of replicated when I was a teenager. I would basically write fan fiction with Alex Rider. And that was how I kind of got into writing. So.
Oh, I love that. Love you writing like little like adventure stories. I love that.
It wasn't even, it was literally just me copy and pasting and thinking I was doing something original. And there really wasn't. So
change the name to me.
Yeah. The name Alex is now Malix. That's
I love it. Okay, so and we have another one from Kendra. So who or what is your muse, and what do you do if you're having writer's block?
Oh, muse.
Apart from cry, I think writer's block. I think that just you cry and eat chocolate.
Oh,
that's
I will take the writer's block question first, because I actually just do the complete opposite. When I get writer's block, I do the step down from just throwing my laptop out the window. I literally just say, okay, you're not working today. And I don't need much to drag me away from my computer. It does not take much. Yes. All it takes is a minor inconvenience in the draft, and I will be like,
bye, girl.
I can't write today. I can't possibly write under these circumstances. Like it could be something like someone's smoke alarm has gone, one of my neighbor's smoke alarms has gone off and blared for 5 seconds, and I'll be like, well, sorry, no writing today.
Ruined.
But for writer's block, to get past it, I hate that this actually works. But leaving the house, going for a walk, getting as far away from my laptop as possible. I find that going for a walk, actually, while I'm walking, I listen to music, and either the lyrics, the song, or just walking, being out and about in general, will usually jog something in my head. So when I get back, I usually am out of the writer's block. As someone who hates just any form of exercise, that really pains me to say that it works, but it does.
See, there's a reason why you're one of my favorite people.
It's just exercise just doesn't speak to me. It really doesn't. And then as for a muse, it's such an artistic question. I really like it. Sounds like lovely.
That's a great question.
It really is. I don't know the actual full definition of a muse in terms of, I was about to say my mum, and then I was like, wait, is a muse like romantic? Because if so, that sounds really weird. I don't know.
Like what inspired? No, I think definitely the idea of the muse has like sometimes become romantic and a little bit
Yeah, I was just double checking
but,
that like officially that definition wasn't romantic.
What's your inspiration, I guess?
I would probably say my mum. I've kind of made a deal with my mum where I've kind of said like, I will dedicate every book I ever write to you. Like being able to put dedicate the book to my mum, such like, oh, it was such a flex. Like I know you're kind of being like, oh, it's so cute, but do you know how it was such a flex when I got to be like, yeah, open the book, your name's in it. It was just, I really loved doing it. I felt so like big baller moves. Like I just felt like I was
nothing over me now. I put your name in a book.
Exactly. And I also got to do the whole, if I'm not mistaken, 1 second, give me 2 secs. The final thing that I said in the acknowledgement, where did I put the acknowledgements in the book? Where are they? Yeah, here they are. The last paragraph is to my mum, and the very last line is, I love you times infinity plus one, this book is for you. The reason it says times infinity plus one is because when I was really, really small, I would have been like 3, 4, 5. I used to sit in the back of the car, and when we would drive home from my grand's, because my grand lived in the next town, she used to kind of look at me in the rearview mirror and say like, I love you, and I'd say I love you times infinity, and she'd say I love you times infinity plus one, and we would have this whole back and forth. I've actually never said that before. That was an in-joke between me and my mum, so I thought I'd share that. That's a cute little thing. But I've always said I would dedicate all of my books to my mum, because without her I would be completely lost and never have made it. So
everybody in the comments cry except for Gav, who has offered to serve as a muse to sing Zero to Hero to inspire you to write more. But Gav, baby, I have heard you sing, and I say no.
Oh no, is it not working out? I would actually prefer. I would prefer like an I won't say I'm in love type vibe. Zero to Hero doesn't speak to me on a personal level. It's just like it's a good song, but you could have picked a better choice as well.
This is the kind of discussion that I want to be paid every day to have. Can we do this all the time? This is great. So we've got another one here. What's your self-care routine when you feel burnt out from Shauna?
I've realized recently that my self-care thing is pretty much just my everyday vibe, in terms of like the things that I do to relax and to wind down and to kind of take myself out of a creative space are just things that I do every day anyway, because I'm just lazy. I really am. I hate to say it. But I just lay out on the sofa. I watch something. I fall into a YouTube like rabbit hole. Or to be fair, I play badminton. It's the only thing that I do that's vaguely energetic or sportsman-like. I play badminton, and I play with a queer club. So, you know, if I was going to do exercise, I had to make sure it was gay.
I was going to say, could we get any more gay than we play queer badminton?
Queer badminton. It could not be more gay. And actually, it could be more gay because I actually have, my racket has neon pink strings, so it could be more gay. There we are. I do things that just make me happy. I feel like there's like a whole vibe that like self-care has to be like the stereotypical self-care of like, oh, I wash my face and I have a long shower and I moisturize and I do all these things. And yeah, those things are great. I enjoy having a lovely hot bath. I love washing my face. You know, I like having good skin. But things that really make me happy and take me out of my stress, which is laying on the sofa and pretending I have no responsibilities, which I tend to do 23 hours of a day. So
I love that. That's good. I think also there's that self-care thing where it's like, but I don't want to pay £45,000 to have my own home spa. Can I not just watch really bad crime documentaries? Can I do that?
Like I said, I'm so lazy. So when it comes to like self-care, skin routines, I just want to be in and out. So I'm not like a 3-in-1 soap person, unfortunately. Like I'm not a straight man. I'm sorry. I draw the line somewhere, but I'm not into like 7-hour skincare routines. My mum is, but I'm really not.
72-hour lush baths, which is where all of us booktubers actually get all of our reading done. That's the only way we get our reading done. We lock ourselves in the bath with a book.
I can't read in the bath, fun fact. I actually can't do it.
What?
I always feel like I always go to run my bath with such good intentions. I'm always like, I'm going to stay in this bath for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, I'm like, and I'm like, I just want to get out. I just get so bored so easily. I don't know why I do it to myself.
That's the first disappointing thing you've said.
I'm so sorry. It really is. I feel so. It goes against my entire brand of wanting to live a very like lavish life of just being a person of leisure. It really does go against my entire brand, but unfortunately, it's just not for me.
Maybe you're just more of a pool person, less of a like steamy bath and wrinkly book person, and more of like a pool and mojito person.
Well, yeah, I'm humble brag. We have a pool downstairs, so I don't use that either. So I'm just like I'm just like I will sit on the sofa and lay. And not move.
Okay, but also it's me, so it's
a cookie, some cakes. I'm good. I'm just good there.
I'm talking at you, but it's a lie. So, okay, on the couch, watching a YouTube rabbit hole. Favorite snack food? Go.
Oh, sorry. I just had a mind. I thought jumped into you. It was. I got an email from Fraser earlier, who you will have already spoken to because he helped organize this, being like, "Don't forget my favorite snack," and he was talking about how cereal is his like evening snack, and I was like, I was like, oh yeah, I'll mention it, but in hindsight, Fraser, I know you're watching this at some point. I was judging that choice. I'm so sorry, but that is not an evening snack meal.
Fraser, you're lovely, but
do you know the worst part? He said he was going to watch this with his cereal. I'm so sorry, Fraser. I really am. Anyway, my favorite snack. I'm a kind of a cookies, pastries kind of lad. You know, I like that kind of.
Yeah. Are we talking American cookies, like as in like Oreos, or are we talking like?
Oh no! I like an Oreo. But that's not my. I'm thinking like like Sainsbury's finest, like those double chocolate chip actual mini.
I'm back with you. It's okay.
Yeah, like those kind of mini cookies type vibe thingies. That's very my vibe.
I almost muted you.
No. I absolutely love a good cookie, a good pastry. I love a good pastry, a good cake. Those kind of things are very my vibe.
Okay, right. You're allowed to stay. Okay.
Please don't kick me out.
Okay, so my last like super important question before I let you go.
Sure.
If you had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh god, I'm so sorry. This isn't even my choice. But why was the first thing I thought? Eye of the Tiger. That is so homophobic. I'm sorry. I feel so terrible.
That's definitely a choice. That is a choice.
It would not be my theme song. I don't know why that came into my head. Oh my. Oh my god. I have it. I'm singing the song in my head, but I don't know what it is.
I mean, you can sing it out loud.
Oh, my talents begin and end with writing. Unfortunately, they don't extend to singing. I'm afraid. I might be singing the Tracy Beaker theme song in my head. Maybe that's what I'm singing in my head.
I mean, that's a solid choice. I think that's fantastic. It's better than Eye of the Tiger. You did not want it. We did not want it in the
anything is better than Eye of the Tiger. I don't know why that was the first song that came into my head. I'm so embarrassed.
And now everybody is singing it in the comments. You're never going to live this down. The only way we could have made Eye of the Tiger worse, Gav.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed that was the first thing. Do you ever have this thing where you say like someone says a question and it's so interesting thinking of what the first thing that comes into your head is, especially when it's quick fire? I don't know why I've never listened to that song since I was like 7. Yeah. I don't know.
That's why I refuse to play word association games because I'm like, oh no, you will actually see the real me. Can't censor that first.
Yeah, let's anyone watching this just never hold that against me. We won't speak of it again.
We'll just pretend we do not see it. We
didn't see it. No one saw it. No one knows what happened. It's between all of us watching here. It's when
it's our secret. Well, thank you so very much for coming on the channel.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
Your amazing book, and also Disney, because that's definitely the brand in it.
Absolutely the brand.
Disney, the brand. Snack food, yes.
No,
But
go
thank
together.
you so much for coming. It has been amazing fun. And thank you to everybody in the comments and Gav for showing up. You will be able to find all of Ben's socials, as I said, and all of the information about the rest of the tour. You're probably very tired now and just wanna go and lie on the couch. Yeah.
Forever. Unfortunately, another book beckons. So unfortunately, I have deadlines out of ears.
But they're good deadlines. They're good deadlines because like gives us more book. Is it from a purely selfish point of view? Get off the couch.
Yeah, when we do this again in like a year's time, then we'll be fine because the book will be out there. But right now, when I'm in the midst of edit trenches, yeah, I'm wondering how to pay my advance back so I don't have to do it. No, I'm kidding.
I promise to only send you like 5 yearly emails before next time.
Well, to be fair, it might actually be finished sooner than I anticipate, actually, because my deadline's not too far away. So by the time we've got it all wrapped up, I mean, it actually shouldn't be too far away, which is odd and exciting. I'll have another book.
Yes, please. Oh no. I was so enthusiastic that I just got rid of myself. I was so enthusiastic that I've ruined everything and I've just left. I just left.
Like, you just went. You just gone. The idea of a second book was too exciting for you.
Okay, yeah, on that definitely very professional note, we shall go. But yes, guys, you will be able to find all the links down below. And of course, you can watch this back anytime you like. And thank you so much for being here. And we will now do awkward wave until we leave. Bye, guys.
Bye.